Hello everyone, we're back from the break and we're about to dive into Empire Strikes Back.
Woo!
Some of us more happier than others. and we were on break. We briefly spoke about our talking points, and I think we're gonna strive right into the point where Luke gets told by Obi-Wan to go to the Dagobah.
So I just want to shout out happy 40th birthday to Empire. It is 40 years, celebrating that. I'm really excited. There's a lot of cool merchandise out that I need to have more than others, but I just want to make a shout out. Happy birthday, Empire.
So with in regards leading up to Luke wanting to go to Dagobah, there's a deleted scene. We'll insert it here. It's inserted. All right. The Wampa scene is, I think, critical storytelling that was left out of Empire. And here's why I think it's critical storytelling, is because that tells you how vulnerable the Rebel base really was. Yeah. The Rebel base really was very vulnerable because it was nothing but ice walls.
Well, that too, and the fact that the ice creatures, aka the Wampas, were very, very deadly. Like, very deadly. And the fact that the Rebels built the base, out of ice was very bad. Reason being is the Wampas burrowed. That's how they made their caves, as we saw at the beginning of Empire when Luke was, about to be food. But as Steve said, this is a really cool scene because what people don't know is the Rebels actually had a big Wampa problem when they arrived on Hoth. And the reason why they had a big Wampa problem was they used Tauntauns as their, scout transportation, right? Not only that, but their R2 units, such as our lovable R2-D2, alright guys, say yay, was very vulnerable as well. Reason being is the beeps and chirps from the astromechs kind of, lured the Wampas into the base.
Right.
Which is bad because, like I just said a minute ago, the Rebels use Tauntauns. That's the Wampas' natural food source. So they come find the droids, they break in, they look at the Wampa pen, the Tauntaun pen, my bad. And that's like open season.
Nom, 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 nom.
Pretty much. And, but this scene was very crucial. I wish Irvin Kershner would have kept it in because it was a very pivotal moment.
And can I get a point of frustration out?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Like, what the hell were those tow lines made out of?
Well, if you ask me, I think they're either out of Jurassic Park fence wire.
Because,
wire cable.
Because, that was impressive that it only needed to be wrapped around, 2 or 3 times and it could bring down an AT-AT.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's space cable, so it's, indestructible. If you know what I mean? But,
space parts.
No, I'm going to add on to that real quick, though. I think it's funny because the AT-AT scene in Empire is the most iconic scene ever because Family Guy makes fun of it, Spider-Man made fun of it in Civil War. What else? And just a lot of people, Robot Chicken especially. I
can't stay out here. I'm gonna freeze.
Pretty much. And another funny Star Wars video you guys could find on YouTube. But yeah, I was wondering that myself as a kid. I'm like, well, damn. Can I just take any type of fishing line and just trip my dad?
I'll take a point to actually quote Burt Gummer in Tremors Aftershocks. You do what you can with what you got.
Well,
boom.
And again, I'm one of the rare ones out of this group where I didn't see Empire until after I saw Return.
Right.
So
after the infamous I'm your father.
Yeah. So
spoiler alert. Now, if you guys haven't seen the movie, then
why the hell are you listening to this?
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. So we're going to Dagobah.
We're going to Dagobah, and when I first saw him, essentially crashing into his planet, this place literally looked like if they had gone to Louisiana and went straight to the back of it literally would have been. If you go to the bayou in Louisiana, you literally have been on Dagobah. That's literally what it is.
Well, you know my theory on that, right?
What?
So I think So obviously Obi-Wan, as the Force goes, told Luke to go to Dagobah. So with Yoda, right? Communication.
Right.
Now I think the whole crash landing, because I'm gonna jump into Return for a bit, okay?
Right.
Because when Luke went back to Dagobah to finish his training, he landed perfectly.
Right.
So I think, from fan theories and my theory myself, is I think that was a test with the Force. If you think about it, yes, it was cloudy, but as Luke was coming in, his instruments were technically working, but not working because of Yoda.
Yeah.
If you think about it, so I think if Luke really used the Force a little bit, he could have seen through the clouds and landed perfectly. But he didn't.
It's also been proven in to one who's seen Rebels that even though Kanan was blind, he was still able to see with the Force.
Right.
I think also part and parcel, and this is my theory behind it, is I think it's also part and parcel that R2 was distracting him.
I do agree, but my little argument on that was I think R2 was kind of not really distracting him, but saying like, "All right, there, boy, figure this out."
Right.
Because what people don't know is R2's been through it all. R2's been through it all.
This is broken personality matrix.
But I don't. Again, I agree. I agree that he was kind of distracting a bit because he should have been beeping. R2 should have been trying to do what he can to make sure the landing was safe.
Right.
Yeah.
But it did break my heart to see that beautiful, beautiful X-wing question, that Bayou Swamp.
You know what though? Ultimately, Luke was really lucky to have landed at all because of one simple fact.
What?
Because he didn't have Rex as his pilot.
If anyone doesn't know who Rex is, the original Star Tours pilot for the Disney attraction. But that's a podcast for another day. Trust me, I got my gripes with that.
So to keep going forward, we let's get on to when you first actually meet Yoda, and my impression of him. Steve has met my grandmother, and she reminds me a little bit of Yoda, when Luke first met her.
Oh, when he was messing with Luke with the whole
she's very mischievous and goofy like that.
Yeah.
Especially there'll be times when I wake up in the morning and she's just poking at me and just she's very, very mischievous and goofy. And I was told, my parents told me they especially my sibling, my mother, she said she was not like this when I was growing up. She was nothing like this. So this is something that came on in age. And I don't know if this was because Yoda had been on the planet too long. Some people would say he was just fucking crazy. But I want to also get into from my insight of what I saw in the movie, the 5 tests Yoda had for Luke.
Yeah.
And it's
we talked about this off mic.
Yeah.
The whole test, yeah.
And the tests are the test of insight, test of patience, trust, faith, and sacrifice. And when Luke first met Yoda, his insight into the Force should have told him that somebody is near, because.
Well, let me interrupt here.
Yeah.
It did, because remember, Luke's like, there's something not right about this place.
True. Because
he knew that this planet had some dark side tendencies. So when he's like, I feel like, feel like what? Like we're being watched. He knew. He knew.
It's not particularly that. Is that he should have he knew he was looking for someone named Yoda.
Right.
But his insight should have told him this is that person.
Well, could it have been a test if you think about it? Because if Obi-Wan said you're going to look for Yoda. Now, exactly. But what I'm getting at is it was probably a test that was put on by Obi-Wan in the Force and Yoda, because again, Yoda was toying with Luke mine, getting into his shit.
Because there was one thing that was pointed out on a video, is that Luke at that point when he was looking for Yoda, he was looking for someone very extravagant, somebody who could teach
a great
him.
warrior.
Exactly. And then when he saw Yoda, he saw this is some small creature that's
exactly.
probably been driven mad by being here for so long.
Again, a test.
Yeah.
Because I know my boy Luke. Remember, he was not experienced at this time with the Force. Yes, he used it, but he didn't know he used it.
Right.
So that's what you got to keep in mind. Because after the events of A New Hope leading into Empire, he's just now figuring himself out.
Right.
He knows about the Force, but he doesn't know about it yet.
Well, the time period from Hope to Empire, I believe, is a year or two, I think. 1 or 2 years, I believe.
Exactly. Because, remember, Obi-Wan does communicate with Luke, but he doesn't do it all the time.
Right.
Which, back to my point about the first Yoda interaction with Luke, was a test. Because, like I said, he knew something wasn't right about this place.
Right.
He knew someone was there watching him. My argument is that was a test of the Force that Luke was actually using.
Right.
He was using it for the first time, other than the Wampa scene where he grabbed the lightsaber because he didn't meant to do that. And then when Luke said, I'm looking for a great warrior, Yoda's like, no, Jedi Master. He goes, oh, Jedi Master Yoda. And then that's when Yoda's like, I will take you to him. And then when they're at the scene when they're eating dinner in the hut,
which is the second test, the test of patience.
Of patience, because
at that
Luke
point,
was getting aggravated because Yoda was testing him subtly.
Yeah.
And that's when the reason why Luke actually, learned it a tad bit was he was talking to Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan was talking back and Luke heard it. And then the whole thing where he's like, much anger in him like his father, Luke was like, that look was like, oh damn. And then that's when he got mad and he goes, you got to chill out. Because technically Luke is too old.
Right.
But he's the last.
And that's one of the tests that he does not pass the test because Yoda could have came out.
Well, we all know he didn't pass any of the tests.
He passed the test of insight. He passed the insight test.
He did.
Partially.
Exactly. I don't count that as passing.
Right.
Because the whole cave sequence, remember when Yoda's like, you don't need your weapons. Mm-hmm. He looked at him and was like, yeah, I do. When he fought the what's the word called? Not apparition.
The vision?
Of the vision of him as Vader.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he finally realized that scene when he's holding the lightsaber's like, oh shit, when he saw his face in the helmet. Yeah.
And and he realized, I'm going back a little bit, the test of patience. He realized Yoda could have came out and said like, hey, like, I'm Yoda. He could have said that, but he wanted to test his patience and see like how far are you willing to go to.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at earlier, like the whole test. Yeah.
And with the and when it finally takes Obi-Wan to realize to Yoda like, this is all we have left at this point. Like,
well, that's during the test of sacrifice. When he saw the vision of Han Leia in danger,
yeah,
he's like, I gotta save him. And Yoda, even when Obi-Wan appeared, he's like, listen, you cannot do this. Your friends are meant to suffer. You need to stay here. And Luke, went on and on and on. And that's when, he saw the vision of fighting Vader. And Obi-Wan's like, listen, you do this, I can't help you.
Right.
And to me, in my opinion, Luke should have been like, he's fucking right. Like, because damn well, and Steve could agree with me on this, he saw that fight in the Revelation.
Right.
He saw that when he was, doing the, what was the test he was doing when he was upside down floating the rocks? Anyway, what are those, that test?
That was the, we'll get into that.
That's just basically a test of balance and such.
Pretty much, yeah.
Balancing the force through you and everything.
I think it was the balance or control, one of those two.
The control was where he was stacking the rocks.
Ah, okay.
That's control.
Right.
Yeah. When it was balance or mind.
Yeah, because remember, not to bring it up, but Luke put Rey through a similar test.
Yeah.
So, but he saw the vision.
Right.
He knew what he was about to do, but I think this is really a moment of Luke truly being like Anakin.
Right.
which was to me because I noticed that when I got a little bit older, when I started getting hardcore into the lore. I agree with what Steve said. He was being more like Anakin, and I think
impulsive,
and I think Yoda saw that and was like,
because Anakin had similar visions of the suffering of Padme.
Childbirth,
and he could have, he could have, sat there and really thought about it then, but he didn't.
He did and we're gonna skip back to Revenge of the Sith. He did think about it briefly, because remember, Padme woke up and was like, "What's wrong?"
Yeah,
and he's like, "I saw the vision you dying during childbirth," and Padme's like, "Oh my god," But we'll get into that in another podcast.
Yeah.
The now talking about the test of trust, this was essentially the cave scene, and before he even went inside, Yoda explained to him that place is strong with the dark side.
Right.
And one of the things that Yoda told him to do was to leave the lightsaber behind.
Well, all of his weapons. His belt.
All of his weapons behind. And this was, to me, was a test of trust, because Yoda told him to do something, and he didn't trust Yoda's word, what was going to happen in there. If he knew something bad would have happened to Luke, he wouldn't have told him to go in there. But this was a test of, because Yoda went in that cave as well. And I believe
back in the Clone Wars.
And he left his saber behind when he went in there. And he came out.
Which I'm gonna say right now, which R2 witnessed.
Yeah.
Keep in mind.
So and that was something of a bust, because he gave in to his anger at that point and his fear, and he struck himself down essentially, which to me was the sense of his fear and anger was going to be his downfall.
Which it almost did.
Yeah. And then the test, I don't think we even mentioned this yet, is the test of faith, is when he tries to get the X-Wing out of the water, and he essentially he gives up.
Well, yeah, because to him, he wasn't powerful enough.
Right.
Which, if you're a Jedi, you have to trust the Force. And then, he got it up somewhat, but then when he failed, it submerged deeper. That's when Yoda stepped in and was doing his little magic, and there's the X-Wing. He was like, I don't believe it. And I still love that line to this day from Yoda. This is why you failed.
Let's. I'm gonna switch to a weird gear. All right. A very weird gear. But hear me out on this. All right.
Yeah.
Comparing the eclecticness of two characters. Let's talk about the parody. Let's talk about Spaceballs for a second with Yogurt and with Lone Star. All right.
Oh boy.
Well, no. Hear me out on this, okay? When he asks him to lift the statue of Yogurt, right? He's sitting there, and he's trying, and what's the one thing that Lone Star says during that scene? He says,
I don't remember.
he sits there and he says, I just don't understand how I'm going to lift this big thing with this little ring. And that's when Yogurt took the opportunity to actually explain the Schwartz.
The Schwartz is as big as mine.
Yeah. But that's when he took the opportunity to explain to Lone Star what the Schwartz was and how it works. And I think one of the massive downfalls between Luke, Obi-Wan, and Yoda is Obi-Wan and Yoda kind of vaguely described.
They did briefly. Obi-Wan did.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan did.
They very briefly, vaguely described what the Force was, but nobody ever actually told Luke fully what the Force was and how it worked. Now, in between the time of Empire and Return, I think that's when Yoda finally broke down and explained what the Force was. But this is a time when even knowing about the Force and everything like that, other than this mystical, magical, fairy tale, Luke naturally would never have known anything really about the Force because of the Empire's lockdown.
Well, kind of, because remember, after the events of Empire, when Lando, Chewie took off, Leia, Luke did their plans. You got to keep in mind, Luke did return to Obi-Wan's hut where he had all the books and knowledge of the Force.
Correct.
Yes.
But I'm talking about in the events before that.
In the events, no.
Because I think if Luke had gone in with the better understanding of what the Force really was, I think he probably would have done much better at Yoda's tests than he ultimately did.
I agree. And the thing is, though, when Yoda was doing the test of the endurance, when he was flipping around in the trees, Yoda did kind of somewhat explain more about what the Force is.
Here's the difference between I'm pulling out Qui-Gon Jinn versus Yoda's teachings. Yoda will explain the light side to a T, what it is, and the feeling of it, and letting it flow through the Jedi strength essentially. But when it comes to topics of the dark side, he doesn't want to go that way, and that comes to that's a sign of not explaining even to and from a teaching standpoint. If you can't explain why something is wrong, your student will not understand. If it's essentially like you explaining math to a student. If you explain why this method works, they're going to explain why can't we do it this way or this way? And if you explain to them why it won't work this way and why the way you're showing them is right, they'll understand it more. But Luke's knowledge of the dark side at that point was you shouldn't do it. These emotions that that I'm explaining to you are of the dark side. But Yoda doesn't explain to him that these are emotions that you're going to have. Qui-Gon explains these emotions you're going to have. That's something you're not going to avoid.
Yeah.
Yoda tells him straight out, don't have these emotions. But to deny those emotions is to deny what make you human. And Qui-Gon understood that as well. Not even human, but any of the races that were there.
Yeah.
To deny those emotions is to deny what you are. And that's one of the things that is a flaw in Yoda's teachings, is that he explains to them these are paths to the dark side. But you need to understand that you're going to have these emotions, but don't give in to them. And
I just find it kind of sad that a parody hit a better point on something than the actual source material.
I mean, I agree, but again, it's a parody.
It is, yeah.
And I don't know. I think my overall opinion was Yoda should have been more upfront about the Force when he recognized that this was Anakin's offspring.
right.
And he should have been like, all right, I'm going to teach you right.
And he should have had the honest conversation about the dark side.
Well, not even that. He should have had... They shouldn't have waited until return to have the conversation about, more about Anakin.
Right.
Well, better yet, more about Darth Vader. Because I get it, kind of don't really expose it yet. I'm glad they did kind of followed up in return when Obi-Wan was telling more about Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
But Yoda should explain, hey, Darth Vader was indeed a great Jedi who turned down this path. The path was very painful, emotional, and just overall bad.
Well, to take this into account, if no one, and I'll even throw in, I'll throw in the scene after he has the fight in Cloud City. Let's just say Vader never told him that he was his father at all, and it gets to the point where he's about to face the Emperor. He still doesn't know, and then Vader literally tells him that, because it's at that point when Luke is fighting Vader. He's fighting some guy he does not know is his father. He knows this is the guy that took down that killed his father.
Yeah, because he even said, Obi-Wan told me enough. He told me you killed him.
Exactly. And that was the switch that went off in his head. The guy that I hate the most in the world is the guy I admire the most in the world.
Yeah.
And at that point, he literally he's like, what am I supposed to do now?
Well, okay, let's skip ahead to the duel, because I
All
want
right.
to get some shit off my chest. Okay, so the duel. I gotta give Vader credit. The trap they laid for Luke was actually pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Because the way he was lured in was perfect. Okay. Now, also too, you could tell that Vader was ready to toy with him because he allowed Luke to land. Remember, because when the Imperial officer in the carbon-free ship was like, he goes, "Got a ship approaching, my lord, X-Wing class." He goes, "Good. Make sure no one interferes with him getting in." All right. Now, there's one fuck up that Luke did. All right, when he first saw Vader, after he told him, like, the Force is with you, young Skywalker, you're not a Jedi yet. What did Luke do? What did he do? He took out his lightsaber and ignited it first. Remember, Jedis don't do that. They're defensive. Now, if Vader would ignite it first, then okay, cool. But that was Luke's fuck up because he was too proud and thought he was Billy Badass to take on the man that killed his father. Okay? Now, what I do love, and me and Steve been talking about this, was Vader was toying with him the entire time.
Yep.
Because of how powerful Vader is, he was holding back so much with the one-handed style. Now, Vader could have been a lot more of an asshole when it came to Luke when he was about to throw him into the chamber by, like, your destiny lies with me, all that line. He could have been like, you're mine. You will go to the dark side, or else I will kill you right here and there. Now, if he would have said that, that would have been a game changer.
If Vader had used more of his Force manipulation, he definitely could have drawn Luke over to the dark side easier because Luke wasn't that strong yet in the Force.
No, he wasn't. And now, like, when you got to the scene where they were fighting and Luke kicked him off this and that, and he was going through the that one room, I will give it to Vader. He used some cheat codes. He actually used the Force to throw shit at Luke. In my opinion, it shouldn't have been like that. Vader should have actually started being more aggressive to wear down Luke, to where when the big scene comes up, he would have pretty much wounded him even more. Because I don't like the fact that Vader had to use objects using his the Force abilities to freaking beat up Luke and throw him out the window.
I think it was also
unfair.
I think he was also using it as a test to test his reflexes as well, which we can all see in that scene that they weren't that good because the objects were vaguely missing him, like just inches, or they were hitting him.
No, they were hitting him.
Yeah,
he was getting hit. He only took out one of the boxes that were thrown at him.
Right.
Now, yeah.
We're talking about Vader, and it's actually lightning outside right now. It's actually kind of terrifying.
But like to the one scene where Luke is in that little hallway and Vader comes out and he's sitting there going. Hang on.
Brief intermission.
We might have to cut this one short because I might have to turn off the PC.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's finish. Go ahead and get to the fight, and we'll wrap it up there.
So the scene, like I was talking about before I take a brief intermission, was when Luke was in that hallway. Vader came out of the shadows. He came out of the shadows and started going ham. Right? Perfect.
Right.
Because you're showing that Vader had enough of Luke's shit and invading him, and he wanted to take him on and possibly kill him. Now, when he got out of the building, they're fighting on the little catwalk. I do like the fact that Luke was smart and got a nick in on Vader, right?
It was a very brief nick, but it was
a very brief nick, but you could tell it hurt because Vader's like, ah, because remember that armor up there wasn't, that was flesh. That whatever flesh Anakin had, but it hurt him. Now, all right, here comes the infamous scene where he's on a little post thing, and then Vader chops his hand off, right?
Ah!
Right. Well, just analyzing that scene, Luke could have done so much better to avoid that, if you ask me, because he could have easily positioned himself on that piece of equipment and literally had a two-hand pose and then kind of counteracted. But instead, he was so quick to try to get away that Vader did that quick parry, and then bam.
Lack of training. There we go.
Exactly. Because remember, Luke never had that much lightsaber combat. Now, Vader's, in my opinion, Vader was thinking cool, like father, like son, you're going to lose a limb.
Let this be a harsh lesson.
But again, Empire's my favorite movie. My thing though is what was running through Vader's mind when he was ready to tell Luke that he was his father. Was it the goodness? I'm thinking it was the light side that was still in Anakin that wanted to reveal that to him.
Well, I do believe that too, because when he was having that conversation with the Emperor, Emperor said that Anakin Skywalker's son is still alive, and he says like
how is that possible?
And then like it's at that point he's denying not only Anakin but the son as well. But I think you're right. That was Anakin talking, but with brief at that point where he broke through.
Yeah. Now, and also too, one of the scenes that I actually respect though is when they actually edited that line in when he was leaving Cloud City. Because remember the original cut was prepare my shuttle. I love that scene where as they're walking out, all the troops and all that stuff are with Vader. He goes, you could tell in his voice, he goes, "Alert my Star Destroyer to prepare for my arrival," because he's hurt that he actually did that to his son. And even when they're on the Falcon, when the tractor beam from the Executor was about to pick him up, he's like, "Son, come with me," son, right there should have told you there's the goodness that Anakin had all along.
I can tell you as a parent, it'd be devastating to watch your own child choose to rather hurl himself off of this ledge than talk to you.
Well, I mean, how would you feel if all of a sudden you reveal that, hey, the bad guy, I'm your dad, but I'm also the bad guy of the galaxy. Yeah. I agree with what Luke did.
Yeah, well, I'm not cutting Luke I'm not cutting Luke any flack. I'm just saying, from Vader's standpoint, that Anakin side was really hurting because
he took off his your own son's hand and hurt him real bad.
Yeah, I'll play it to even up this point. Let's say I'll use Spider-Man as an example.
Okay.
Let's say Green Goblin, he straight up just murders Uncle Ben, and now Peter does not see this. He just knows that Uncle Ben was taken, that he's dead. The police report says that he's gone, he's dead. And only thing the police can tell you is that the Green Goblin killed him. And in his mind, Peter's mind, this is the guy who took away my mentor, my parent. He's the reason that Aunt May is suffering. He's the reason that, we're struggling the way we are. All your anger and emotions are focused on this one guy. And then he finally confronts the Green Goblin. Then he finds out that the Green Goblin is Uncle Ben. That would destroy him inside, because the one person who he's trying to avenge, who made him feel like I'm actually someone, is the person who took it all away from him. So
wow, alternate universe.
So
but no, I agree with what you're saying. It'd be devastating not only for Peter but for Ben as well.
Yeah.
But Vader, or should I say Anakin at this point, you could tell he was so devastated because that last scene when R2 fixed the hyperdrive on the Falcon, and when they took off, all the Piet and the other people were like, "Oh shit, we're in trouble." Vader just looked away, looked at the window, and then walked off to his meditation chambers. You could tell he wasn't even mad, and that was good Anakin. Why am I gonna punish my crew when they did nothing wrong?
I think they honestly expect them somebody's gonna die.
Yeah, exactly, because Vader had that habit. Even in Empire, we saw it in Empire a few times where if an officer or admiral disobeyed Vader's orders, you're dead. Mm-hmm. And that's why he was feared in the Imperial Academy, which is a story in itself. But so they're on the Falcon, they go back to the fleet. And which
Luke is in need of a hand.
Well, actually, that surgery was very painful to Luke. Very well. I mean, he was somewhat under, but it was no joke. And
I mean, there's the deleted scene that covers that too.
What deleted scene? Sorry, I'm learning new stuff every day. No.
Empire Strikes Back. What did you guys take away from that?
Empire Strikes Back. Don't kiss your sister.
What he said, because that. Okay. So hear me out.
But I'm being honest though.
No. In their defense, real talk. In their defense, they had no fucking clue Luke was like, all right, Leia's into me, that hot piece of ass, suck it, Han. And that showed, And it's like, all right, cool. So, I love it, the whole... Take it easy, man. But no, don't, Empire was really good. They should have explained more on the Force to Luke, especially Yoda and Obi.
Yeah.
They should have explained a little bit more with Vader's conflicts that he had.
Yeah.
Not only revealing that he's Luke's father, but other shit too.
Right.
And honestly, Han and Leia just should have fucked. Easy as that. I'm just saying.
I'm still a little sore that they because this happened through, well, not so much during the prequels, but this happened a lot during the original trilogy and the new trilogy, and it's one of the things that upset me a lot. Despite how helpful he is, he still gets treated like shit, and they people shit on 3PO way too much.
Well, the thing is, the 3PO.
Like, he's helped him out a lot of scrapes.
Well, he had his moments in the OT, okay, and the thing is, 3PO was, if I remember correctly, this means Steve had this. He was a character that you either loved him or you hated him.
Yeah.
You went one of two ways with I almost called him Creepio. You go one of two ways with 3PO. You either love him or you hate him, and I enter the hate category. I can't stand 3PO.
It's a balance between me. He has his moments where I love him and hate him. But my only thing though with Empire, throughout the original trilogy, is, I will say this though, nothing against Harrison Ford, but Han Solo was a real dick to him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't needed.
It wasn't really needed. It wasn't really needed because 3PO honestly is their best hope for survival because A, he's a protocol droid. B, he could talk to anything electronic droids, computer systems.
He could have talked to the Falcon so many times.
Yeah, he could have talked to the Falcon and found out what was wrong with the hyperdrive, but Han wouldn't let him do it. So it's kind of personally...
I don't believe in the whole reason behind it with the person being downloaded into the memory of the computer, blah, blah, blah. I hate that thing. Anyways, sorry.
But no.
Side rant.
And because honestly, Han did that to himself. Because if 3PO, if he did plug him into the Falcon, 3PO was like, oh, by the way, this is wrong with the hyperdrive. So they could have avoided going to Cloud City and getting caught.
They literally could have. There have been because there were thousands of problems wrong with the Falcon, and as you said, if you could have plugged C3PO up to they could have found out pretty much everything and fixed them. And made it a better ship.
Well, see, at least Leia liked 3PO. She did care about him after he got blown up by the trooper in Cloud City.
Yeah.
She goes, "Oh, Chewie, what happened?"
I got in a fight with a protocol droid.
Well, not even that though, and this is why I know I'm gonna catch a lot of hate from your fans and viewers and shit, but I do not like Han Solo.
I've already made my stance on this.
Yeah,
very clear.
and and it's kind of I agree with Steve. I wish he would have died because he was
would have made the story a lot more emotional.
Well, he was a
honestly.
shit talker, and yes, it was true. He was on his way to pay back Jabba before all that happened, but I kind of wanted him to fall in the Sarlacc pit. If you ask me.
Well, let's not get far as Return of the Jedi, because at that point people are if they let him die in Empire Strikes Back.
Well, I'm saying if he would have made it past that.
Oh.
The way he would have gone out, he wanted to in Empire.
That would honestly been a good fight between him and Boba Fett.
But I will say this though, real quick though, you damn well know Vader wasn't happy when he saw his daughter kissing this little scoundrel. He's like,
How do you intend to provide for my daughter? Smuggling?
Well, I was watching a YouTube video with some legit, movie critics, and it was funny because they were doing a commentary through Empire, and the scene where Han goes in the room and shoots at Vader, one of the guys was like, "Great, Han, you're shooting at your fucking father-in-law."
So, ultimately, I can see why to a lot of people Empire is their favorite.
Now, let me just intervene real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Steve, but when you said that, the reason why I like Empire, because it was very, very dark, and bad guys actually win.
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen
in movies. And I think it was one of the best Star Wars movies to this day. Second top in Return.
You see, I don't mind Empire. It's not my favorite, but it's not my most hated.
Yeah.
Even when we only had the 3 films, it was never my least favorite. Back then, my least favorite was the Star Wars Holiday Special.
We don't talk about that. I say we don't talk about that.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, though. We all know what's worse than the Star Wars Holiday Special at this point. So, because I think everybody can agree that The Last Jedi was way worse than the Star Wars Holiday Special. Like, that was the casino. I mean, the entire thing with the casino
was not necessary. I agree.
It wasn't. But I had to break bad news to you, man. Like, Last Jedi was better than the Holiday Special, in my opinion.
That the scene with Luke and Ben was probably, for a lot of people, mine in general, was the highlight of the movie. That made it like
the face.
I'm not gonna get it. I don't want to get into this for the new trilogy because it was. Whew.
Yeah, we'll get into the new trilogy eventually.
One hole I want to point out that I did not realize until after I watched the Family Guy special that they pointed out. I'm like, that's really fucking true. Is when 3PO pointed out, like, he's being taken to Jabba's palace. Let's go rescue him in 3 years. And you find out between Empire and Jedi, there is a big gap of time. They know exactly where they're taking him.
Yep.
But like, there's
was it 3 years? I thought it was like
it was 3 years.
It took them 3 years to get. Yet they knew exactly where Tatooine is. Like it's because Luke lived there.
Well, the thing is, though, like, I know we're not supposed to get into Jedi just yet, but, like, I'll voice my opinion on something in Jedi on the next one.
And that's the thing. They know exactly where they're taking him. They said, we're taking him to Jabba's palace. You know exactly, because Luke lived there. He knows who Jabba is.
Well, he lived there. He didn't know where Jabba was, if you think about it, because he was near Mos Eisley. Jabba was over in the Dune Sea, like the barren wasteland. That's where Jabba was.
But it's Tatooine. You think it takes 3 years to find someone on a planet?
Well, because remember, Lando actually had to use his sources to find out where Jabba was. Because remember, Lando was, yes, the coordinator for Cloud City, but he was also still a scoundrel. So he had connections that led Luke and Leia there.
Right.
Because it's not exactly as if we're still doing pod racing at this point, and Jabba's coming out and being like, "This is pod racing."
Because remember, Jabba kept his business so low key that the Empire, unlike Vader, knew where he was. That's why it took him that long to find it. Because remember, at this time, Luke already got his hand. He told Leia, like, "Listen, I'm taking my X-wing. I'm going back to Tatooine to learn." That's when he went to Ben's hut. That's when we all know the special thing happened there, and then that's when Jedi
found
starts.
himself.
Kind of.
Stop.
What? You said he found himself. I'm just
Not
picturing
that way.
masturbation. Like, what brings you closer to the Force?
Well,
wow, that was dirty. Okay.
To put another.
It's true.
Dude, you know if he used that mechanical hand, he'd rip his junk right off, right?
It's got sensitivity.
We're talking about Star Wars.
Was it his right hand? I thought it was his left hand that got taken.
I apologize for this, folks. This is.
It was his right hand.
It was his right hand.
Oh, so it was the Yankee Bank hand.
Oh,
Damn.
God. Anyway,
just so you guys know, I'm not editing particularly a lot of stuff. So like,
listen,
this is going in there.
Listen, everyone knows that I have a foul mouth, but I'm not that dirty. So sorry, folks.
At the end of the day, though, it's just he kissed his sister.
And then saw his sister in a sex bikini.
That's a different story altogether. With me.
Okay, we'll get into that when we talk about Jedi.
So to wrap it all up, to wrap it all up, what is the legacy of Empire Strikes Back?
As an Empire aficionado, I think it defined the key of storytelling, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not really in the Star Wars universe, but moving forward. Because Irvin Kershner had great direction. He had, the great writers who even did the other movies and stuff like that. And, it was just, the tone of it was perfect. It needed it. Excuse me, the Vader-Luke duel, I think that was cinematic masterpiece. That was so well done. I consider it perfect. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But overall, Empire...
Well,
Great movie.
Vader and Luke's duel on Cloud City, to a lot of fans, like from speaking of a lot of fights, this is including Rebels, Clone Wars, all the series. That's in people's top 5 matches. Like,
that's my top one, honestly. Like I'll give you a list of my top 10. Like top 10, top 5, but it's right. It's number 1.
And well, Steve, what do you take about? I have a wrap up question for all of us, but like,
I think that in any opera, you need a strong first act.
Mm-hmm.
You need the second act to convey the emotions that need to go forward into the third act. And I think Empire does a very good job of conveying the emotions that need to happen for the third act to take place.
Right.
The best example that I can give to people of how I compare the act structure of the original trilogy is to the act structure of Madame Butterfly. And to get to that point of the helicopter, you need to have that strong emotional second act where you need those emotions to come forward. To go off onto a side tangent, if you think if I have to put it to a movie that does it just as good in just one movie, is The Last Samurai. Because to get to the emotions of getting in front of the Emperor and giving him the sword, you need to have the sacrifices of the second act there. And so that's the easiest way I can put it is in an opera, in a 3-act opera, you need this strong foundations of a good second act, and that's what Empire. That's why it's never been my most hated. It's just not my cup of tea, and it's surprising for a 501st number, right? But it's just not.
That scene actually, to take on this Last Samurai, that scene where he actually does hand him the sword. He asks him that question in English,
yeah.
Not even in, because he's speaking to him now as my culture to yours, and I want you to tell me,
yeah,
how did he die? He's like, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you how he lived, because the story of someone dying, it won't take you as gripping, but you tell a person how they lived, that's a story worth telling. Because just to tell the story of someone's death, it really can't capture their life that much. It will capture their life in just one scene.
Yeah.
But to tell them how they lived will capture their whole life. You understand this is how they lived, and you'll understand why they died the way they did.
Yeah.
And
what's your wrap-up question?
Well, this is my two to you two, and I'll answer after you guys go. In the original trilogy, I'll throw in the prequels at this point too, because we're gonna discuss those. What are your top 5 fights? And I'll include Rebels and Clone Wars in this as well.
I'll go first if you don't mind. The Luke Vader duel in Bespin.
Is that number 5 or 1?
That's number 1.
That's number 1. Okay.
Yep. Luke and Vader in front of the Emperor, number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the Ahsoka Vader fight from Rebels. Clone Wars, honestly, I have none, because I didn't like the fights in Clone Wars at all.
They seem more visceral a little bit.
Yeah. Where am I at? Number 3?
You're number 4.
Number 4.
You said both the Vader fights. You said
Ahsoka and Vader. Okay, number 4. Okay. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
And my number 1 duel.
You're number 5.
Yeah, sorry, I'm stupid today, guys. I apologize. My number 5 duel would be.
Remember, you can take from the prequels, the original, and all. And
I'm thinking here. My number 5 duel. Yoda and Sidious.
Okay.
Steve?
All right. Even though I teach lightsaber combat,
Show off.
Even though I teach lightsaber combat, I actually don't really like it from the movies. But if I had to pick, I can't give you 5.
Okay.
I really can't.
Can you give us 3 at least?
I can give you 3.
Okay.
I can give you 3. I'll start from 3 and I'll work my way up.
Mm-hmm.
My number 3 is the Obi-Wan Vader fight from A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
It bothers a lot of people with the tone of it, but I liked it because, it's good storytelling. Number 2 would have to be, and Dave knows this, my number 2 is the throne room fight. I love that because it's packed with emotion, it's heated exchanges, it's
and you're training me Luke style too, so
yeah, and it's just everything that a symphony needs to work. And then my number 1 is Anakin Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith, and to me that one hits every point that it needs to. It's fast paced, it's visceral, it's good storytelling, you have good emotion.
There's dangers to both fighter.
Yeah, it's just all around great symphony of what it should be. Okay. That being said, the things that my favorite all-time Star Wars fight is Attack of the Clones, when the clone troopers come in. And you have all the Jedi fighting alongside the clone troopers. You have the great Anakin Dooku duel going on. Every single ounce of that entire portion of the movie hits some gorgeous beats that are they're there, and they're very surreal, and it's beautiful. It's not really a lightsaber duel. It's not really anything other than just a pure hardcore fight, and the whole symphony of that just is beautiful to me. Like, okay. I love that.
I'll give you guys. I probably can't give you a top 5 because there are so many more. I would give you my favorite fights. My favorite fights of all time. I'll start from the bottom, obviously.
Okay.
The Ahsoka Tano fight versus Vader in Rebels,
mm-hmm.
because people were expecting it. They knew it was gonna. This is eventually.
I was expecting it.
And for them not to have the fight would have been a huge disappointment to everyone to not have that fight. Another fight that a lot of people don't find popular is the Yoda versus Dooku fight in Attack of the Clones, because at this point. If anyone who saw the original trilogy and even saw the Phantom Menace, we have never seen Yoda fight. The only thing we have is that he was a great Force user and a great duelist, but we've never seen him actually use it in combat. And that fight, from what I've heard from fans around, particularly from comments on YouTube to like just in general, the theaters at that point exploded when they saw this fight.
Because I was there. They did.
Oh, same here. But with me on that fight, the reason why it wasn't in my top was it was so fucking short. I expected going to the theater. I expected to be a little bit longer.
The Yoda Dooku part.
The Yoda Dooku fight.
Yeah.
That's why I'm disappointed in it. But seeing Yoda kick ass was great. But it could have been George should have extended that fight.
True.
And Dooku should have been wounded.
Now to get into my top 5. Number 5 is Luke versus Vader on Cloud City. It is an epic fight, but I don't like one-sided fights. I understand the storytelling behind that. If you see a fight where it's very strictly one-sided, it doesn't appeal to me that much. I like to see the underdog, get his licks in, and then just have it gives him the hope of, like, you want to see the underdog win and put up his best fight. but you can see it in the whole match that he's toying with him the whole time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't appeal. It doesn't appeal to me that much. The reason it is in my top 5 is because of that infinite line that is forever in Star Wars lore, the "I am your father" scene. Because Mark Hamill actually explained during that thing, like he knew a year before it came out in theaters, before production, that this was going to happen.
Oh, he was the only actor that knew.
It was him, Lucas, and the director who told him. That's literally
Kirshner.
And I think James Earl Jones was found out about when he was recording.
He was he was the last to know.
Yeah.
Well, no, the absolute last to know was David Proust. Because he often
he often comments that he didn't know until he saw it in theaters.
Right.
So
even Harrison Ford was shocked. He goes, "Oh shit."
So, all right, number 4.
Number 4. It's the Vader Obi-Wan fight on the Death Star.
Okay.
It is like you said. It is. Once I figured out what their thoughts were behind when they were doing this, I understood why they fought so carefully and they fought so, intentively. It was the fact that they were old, but they were being as careful as they were. Because at that point, Obi-Wan was old. He wasn't as sharp as he was before. And at that point, Vader was actually fighting very cautiously because he just lost to this guy. He's not making the same mistakes he did before. If he went in there lashing as he did, Obi-Wan's not as strong as well, but he knows how, at that point, how to deflect and actually get him where he needs to get him.
Yeah.
Coming in the same way he did as Anakin, he would have lost. Doesn't matter how strong he was in force. A swift, strong strike can be parried or deflected into just one. It takes one mistake. That's all. Number 3 that recently became one of my top 3 is the Obi-Wan Qui-Gon versus Maul. People and Dave Filoni recently tapped on this. People do not realize how important that fight is. I'm not going to explain why. Go see or read his explanation. You'll understand why it's in my top 3 and how important that sets the tone for the rest of the prequels. And if you watch them in order, like from 1 to 6 in order, it sets the tones for all of the other movies as well. That fight is almost important as the next 2 I'm going to be putting up. My number 2 fight is Yoda versus Sidious.
Okay. Because
these two, when you think of Force users, especially the light and the dark, these two are what you think of first. A lot of fans think of first. Yoda is the guy that you seem like he is that guy who's their strongest fighter, essentially. You save your best for last. And for Sidious is like the strongest dark side user as see in the films at this point. And to see them clash, because at this point, Yoda had no idea Sidious who Sidious was. And to see them clash the way they did was an epic fight to me. Because at that point in Revenge of the Sith, there might have been 1 or 2 Force users that I could have seen that could have given Yoda a fight at least. But at that point, nobody was on his level. Sidious met him strike for strike at that point. And even in the fights in Clone Wars and any other, if you see them clash, it's always an even fight between the two of them. But in Revenge of the Sith, Yoda does lose, and and George Lucas has confirmed it is a loss, despite people saying like, what happened? He did lose. And my number 1 fight, obviously, is Anakin versus Obi-Wan, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
No, I think we pretty much covered A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith.
Empire
Strikes Back.
Yep.
Wah wah.
Oh, disrespectful, bro.
I don't often admit my mistakes. Now is not a time to start.
Oh.
So basically, this is edited.
So basically,
Gotcha.
you told me to F off. Got it.
This is getting edited, is what that means.
Empire Strikes Back. So, but thank you, Steve and Dave, for joining me for this podcast.
Hey man, no problem.
We'll be covering Return of the Jedi next time, And then
Sure, we're not going to talk about Revenge of the Sith?
no, not this time. Not
Can
this
we
time.
talk about Revenge of the Jedi?
Oh, I got news about that. We'll explain it when we talk. No, yeah.
I love how that was supposed to be the original title. It's so good. Anyways,
We'll talk about Return of the Jedi next time, and we will try. I'm not making any promises. We'll try to incorporate all of the prequels, episodes 1, 2, and 3 into one podcast because there are only certain talking points that are important in each film that can go into great depth. Because in the prequels, there's not a lot of things to solely base upon. Specifically with the prequels, the only things that are easy to talk about is
I hate sand.
I hate Sand too.
The relationship between Anakin and Padme, Revenge of the Sith, them finding out about Sidious, Order 66, and then Episode 1, Qui-Gon finding Anakin, and then the Darth Maul fight. There's not a lot of talking points for the prequels.
Can I set a ground rule going into that?
Go ahead.
No Jar Jar. No Jar Jar.
Who's Jar Jar?
Precisely. There we go.
Good man.
That works for me. And by the way, if to the viewers out there, please take a minute out of your day. Well, it's longer than a minute, but take some time out of your day and go watch the Jar Jar free edit of Phantom Menace. It makes the movie way better, like amazingly better.
He's a Jar Jar Binks.
Excuse me, sir. Get out of my house.
I literally just threw a plastic knife at
Never
him.
speak Gungan here ever again.
He does that too well. He does that way too well.
Yeah,
He does that.
Look, I'm even pointing him with Disney point. Shit.
Like, you do that too well. Don't ever do that again. All right. Anyways,
Thank you everyone for
no problem,
for tuning in with us for this Star Wars podcast. We'll see you next time. As always, take it easy.